Gilbert and my partner, Ellie Silverman, and I are here to represent the affirmative side of today's debate. Today's resolution is resolved that performance-enhancing drugs should be allowed for athletes in professional and Olympic sports. My partner, Ellie, and I are here today to prove to you that the resolution is correct and that in every sport across the world, performance-enhancing drugs should be allowed. There are some terms I would like to define. They are performance-enhancing drugs, allowed, and professional. According to the Free Dictionary, professional means a person who is engaged in a certain activity or occupation for gain as a means of livelihood, such as a permanent career, not as an amateur. We are not including any minor league sports, only the major league level and their equivalent across the world. Performance-enhancing drugs are, according to the Free Dictionary again, substances used by athletes to improve their performances in the sports in which they engage. And according to biologyreference.com, anabolic steroids are drugs that have similar effects to testosterone in the body. We also would like to define PEDs only as anabolic steroids. And allowed means to let, do, or happen, permit. Therefore, our resolution in simpler terms is performance-enhancing drugs, specifically steroids, should be allowed for Major League and Olympic athletes to enhance their performances. A brief historical background on the subject is, in 1928, the International Association of Athletics Federation, the governing body for track and field, becomes the first international federation to prohibit the use of PEDs by athletes. In the 1950s, steroids were used to treat anemia and muscle wasting disorders and to help patients who had been bedridden to rebuild their muscles that they had been losing. And this was all under FDA approval. In 1967, the Olympic Committee establishes the Medical Commission to fight against the use of steroids in sports. They are given 3 guiding principles: protection of the health of the athletes, respect for medical and sports ethic, and equality for all competing athletes. The first drug test at the Olympics was in 1968. In 1987, the NFL, the National Football League, banned steroids. In 1988, Ronald Reagan passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, outlawing the sale of steroids for non-medical purposes. And in 1991, Major League Baseball banned steroids. Some causes for discussion are very recently many athletes have been busted for using PEDs. In 2007, Senator George Mitchell released a list of 89 Major League Baseball players who had been known to use PEDs to give themselves an advantage over everyone else who hadn't. In the Olympics, sprinter Marion Jones won 5 medals at Sydney in 2000, but had to give them all back after she was found guilty of using steroids. And the most recent, Lance Armstrong, won the Tour de France 7 times, but he had to give all of his medals back because he used steroids. So, athletic liberty is what athletes deserve. Ellie and I believe this because of the past. Drugs such as steroids help boost ratings. Athletes should have control over their own bodies. And if all players had the option to use steroids, it would add equality. Steroids helped save baseball. After the 1994 season was cut short by a strike, baseball was a dead game. According to BaseballAlmanac.com, the National League average attendance from 1994 to 1997 was 1.9 million fans per season. And in the 3 years before the strike, it was about 2.5 million. And baseball was at an all-time low. Then came the historic 1998 season. 2 stars spent the summer trading home runs, and by the end of the season, they both had shattered the previous record of 61 home runs set in 1961. These 2 stars were St. Louis Cardinals slugger Mark McGwire and Chicago Cubs star Sammy Sosa. McGwire hit 68 home runs in '98, and he jumped his team's attendance from 1.7 million in 1995 to 3.1 million in '98. And Sosa jumped his Cubs back up from, in '95 they had 1.8 million, and then in '98 they had 2.8 million. So in '98, Sosa and McGwire combined for 136 home runs. Their back and forth competition attracted fans back to the game because of the opportunity to see a home run every night, which is one of the most exciting plays in sports. And it is a known fact that people want to see offense at sporting events. They want to see a game in 10-9 or 9-8, not 2-1. And according to Berkeley.edu, baseball revenue went up an average of $52 million during the mid to late 1990s. So that's one of the reasons why steroids should be legalized. And almost all the people in major sports are grown men and women, and as mature grown men and women, they should have control over their own bodies, and they should have the option to use PEDs if they want. For example, they're allowed to drink and smoke. Alcoholic beverages can cause liver damage, and smoking can cause lung cancer. These are just two examples of legal substances that have negative health impacts on our body, but steroids has many more positive impacts than that. And the last reason PEDs should be legalized in sports is for equality. In 1996, Ken Comanti, Padre third baseman, won the MVP, and he thought that 50% of the players were using steroids. And in conclusion, PEDs should be allowed in professional Olympic sports because